They landed in the Apple Company heliport next to the company's open pit mine. Bobby Two Shoes had been here before, riding along on a neodyme deadliner raid, but never this close to the landing site or the mine itself, both of which were protected by heavily armed Yellowlegs. The pit was a round-shaped canyon, something like 5 or 6 kilometers wide, and probably 3 deep from up top. Through the haze of lingering radioactive blasting dust, he could see dirt movers digging far below, and dinosaur-sized trucks loaded with ore moving up the spiraling dirt road, past empty trucks making their way back down for more. They hitched a ride in an empty dump truck. Sitting high up in the cab, Bobby Two Shoes could see the patchwork of tailing ponds stretching far into the desert of scrub and stone to the north and east. A hopscotch of bowls chock full of the poisonous soup of industrial chemicals, rejected metals, and wastewater. These ponds were unguarded, and needless to say, so let's move on. As the truck turned into the dirt road heading into the mine, Bobby Two Shoes wondered where he was going. "You're going out," the Yellowlegs said. Meanwhile, they were going down, not out, going down and round the mine's umbilical corkscrew. Instruction. La larme à l'œil. It's dark energy that's pulling us apart, a dark force mightier than any that might bring us closer. Occasionally, as they looped downward, they encountered berms, the hard dirt surfaces that provided width for the trucks going up and down to pass each other. At one such berm, the truck paused. The Yellowlegs gave Bobby Two Shoes a shoulder shove and a nod, and the two stepped down onto the terrace between truck and batter wall. The Yellowlegs pointed Bobby to the mouth of a tunnel in the wall. "You'll come out somewhere out there," he said, waving an arm vaguely in the direction of the devastation to the east. Bobby Two Shoes took a tentative step toward the tunnel, but the Yellowlegs put a hand on him and tugged at the jacket into which they'd put Bobby. "You don't want to explain where you got that," he said, and hopped back into the truck, leaving Bobby Two Shoes the way they'd found him, without a jacket and without shoes. The white hen, the red wheelbarrow, the rain. Through the portal of the tunnel, he entered into darkness, swept an arm along the wall going forward, a step at a time, tentatively, into the attic. Here it is difficult not to hear the thump of rabbit feet. I'm late. He fell down, the mine stope, into a hallway lined with doors of various sizes. Here there was a faint reddish glow emanating from the europium and yttrium in the tunnel walls. He found the little door and the key in the bottle marked "Drink Me." But when he opened that door, there was no lovely garden, no beds of bright flowers and cool fountains. Instead, he saw a tailings pond, and beyond that the familiar landscape of dirt and scrub and stones and desolation. Tranchant. This fragment does not belong here. So no hookah smoking caterpillars, no grinning Cheshire cats, no tea party goers waiting to greet Bobby Two Shoes when he emerged from the tunnel. Instead, he found himself on the edge of a small tarn of dark brown slime. He could see beyond the tailings pond, a sky the same slimy brown, and all the way to the horizon, the old familiar wasteland. And to his surprise, he felt a tug at his heart, the kind of feeling you might expect at the first sight of home after a long sea or space voyage. Problem was, there was no way around the poisonous waterhole. There were ponds blocking his way on either side. One a green stew, the other yellow. That's the way of the world, Bobby Two Shoes told himself. You get to pick the color of the poison that will kill you. He peeled off his jeans and rolled them into a bundle. He didn't want to take the chance they'd dissolve in the soup. Gingerly, he stepped into the muck, wading in the shallows along the edge of the reservoir, doing his best whenever possible to keep at least his right foot balanced on the narrow division between his adopted pond and its green neighbor, until the pool became too deep and he was forced to surrender his lower body to the sludge, which immediately caused a tingling on his bare legs. De sang-froid. All right, they've given you the green light, the ways we see technology, ways of living, improved disasters, enhanced clinical disorders, cutting paths to manufactured shortcuts. Nevertheless, a fleeting moment of something close to beauty, cloudless sky, untroubled sea, a bird swoops, maybe a cormorant. On-site production, flexible codes, too much money. The question, where to spend it all. This poem, like a sales pitch to the in crowd. Technology, for example, criticized for insufficient exercising. Meanwhile, writing overtime. Do this, do that. What is sustainable after all? All that money greenwashed, fuel shortcuts, disasters, everything improved. A small brown dog waiting by the door. As he edged his way waist deep in the tailings pond and engulfed in sulfuric fumes, his eyes stinging and tearing up, and his breath shortened, Bobby Two Shoes heard a booming explosion somewhere behind him. He turned to see a cloud of white smoke rising from the depths of the open pit. The explosive team with whom he'd helicoptered in at work, he figured. He pushed on, slipped once, and went down up to his shoulders, but managed to keep his head and pants above water, until at last he came to dry land. He took a couple of steps on hard ground and sat down to catch his breath. His bare legs were red and maybe slightly swollen, as though they'd been sunburned in the pool. Otherwise, he figured he'd be all right once he got his breath back. He scanned the familiar flatland ahead. He was free, finally free of the bubble, alone and free. The idiots had cut him loose in the outlands, his outlands. He felt a rush of exhilaration, so powerful it knocked him onto his back, where he lay for a moment staring up into the turbid sky, until a black dot appeared, high up above, descending gradually and then more and more rapidly. The dot grew larger until it became a drone. Bobby Two Shoes watched it gain speed, dropping straight down at him. He rolled to his knees, prepared to toss himself to one side or the other, but the drone suddenly halted, froze in the air, 2 or 3 meters above him, hung there, staring back at Bobby Two Shoes, just long enough to be sure he got the message. He was not alone. He was not free. Then the drone zipped up and away, out of sight, but not out of mind. He was parched, but he drew the line at drinking from tailings ponds. He knew if he kept walking east, he'd eventually come to a more moderately polluted waterhole, somewhere in the vicinity of the Barnett Levelers colony. So he put on his pants, popped a small stone in his mouth to induce a bit of saliva, and carried his thirst for 2 days, stopping to rest briefly at night, but not too long, because he knew he was in a race with lack of water, which would soon sap his will and buckle his flaming red legs. Meanwhile, the fires to the south kept pummeling the purple bruised sky. Occasionally, he heard the rapid strings of missile barrages in the ongoing, unacknowledged, and unmentionable war with Portland. Au pas, camarade, au pas. Follow the Jew, the Jew, the Jew. Fingers tent-like on his forehead, rounded up, taken off the streets. The difficulty of naming. News traveled by word of mouth. In the movies, they follow from a distance. Are you carrying? My shoes aspire. The Jew, the Jew, the Jew. A garden fig or fruit trees are a consolation. In the spring, the harbor seals returned with their young. We call them harbor seals, but they don't care what we call them. They come and go as they please. Early morning, dark water. He crouched beneath the white shroud of self-examination on the edge of the continent, the Jew clinging to the edge of the continent. Gémissement. Blanchot, la littérature n'est qu'un sourcil. The scent of winter arrived long before the first snow, because literature is a waste of time, a flash of light, momentary illusion of the present, and the book is gone. Daniel, asleep and dreaming on that frozen kip, and he woke from dreaming, and he wrote the dream. Still, Bobby Two Shoes figured, if it glitters, it's probably not, but it could be gold. We are having the time of our lives. That's all we've got. And we may not even have that. We could be in Daniel's dream, Descartes notwithstanding. A flock of small birds, starlings, I think, perched along and among 5 parallel wires. Early morning sonata. Deadlines.